With our leadership, every disaster Joe Biden and Kamala Harris have created can be fixed and be quick, very quickly. By this time next year, America's borders will be strong, sealed, and secure. Inflation will be a full thing of the past. It will be in full retreat. Our economy will be roaring back. Optimism will be surging.
Former President Trump campaigning in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania yesterday, his first time in Pennsylvania since surviving the assassination attempt, which was in Butler. Trump also released a new campaign pledge, writing on Truth Social, seniors should not pay tax on Social Security. About 40% of people who get Social Security must pay federal income taxes on their benefits, and they pay ordinary income taxes on that. The Committee for a Responsible Budget estimates that without a replacement source of revenue, that plan would increase deficits by $1.6 to $1.8 trillion. Through 2035. Joining me now is North Carolina Congressman Greg Murphy, a member of the House Veterans Affairs, Ways and Means and Administration Committees, also the co-chairman of the GOP Doctors Caucus. Congressman, great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here. What's your take on this plan of not taxing senior citizens, Social Security?
Well, good morning, Maria. Any taxation issues come through Ways and Means. We're now working on next year trying to put into permanency the tax Trump cuts, the TCJA, that we did in 2018. That, I like that idea. The problem is, how do we pay for it? So we'll really have to scrub that as we go through committee conferences and analysis and reviews. I feel sorry for our seniors because a lot of those, the Social Security check is all that they can live on. But we have to be responsible on what's feasible, what's not feasible. We just passed $35 trillion in our deficit, and we can't do anything that's going to increase that.
Are there areas that you see as a revenue increase or a revenue offset to perhaps taking away tax revenue for Social Security?
Well, putting over $1 trillion is a huge lift. But what we want to do in keeping the TCJA tax cuts permanent is to grow businesses. If you look at the charts right after 2018 when that was passed, in 2019, small businesses, large businesses reinvested. They were able to grow their businesses. Are we going to be able to grow out of this deficit that we have? That's going to be very, very difficult to do without some moderation of other tax policy.
Mm-hmm. Kamala Harris is basically, distancing herself from Joe Biden's economic policy. Yeah. How do you see it in the last several years as you've been talking about spending and trying to get agreement in terms of stopping spending so that we wouldn't have the inflation that we've had? How involved was the vice president?
Well, that's a real question. I think it's farcical, the things that she's saying right now. I mean, remember, she was the second most liberal senator when she was in the Senate. And all the spending policies that Joe Biden, or really probably his staff, as we find out now, were putting forth, she probably didn't think they were enough. And so for her to come out and talk about fiscal responsibility and all these other things is absolutely absurd. She's going to, God forbid, if she became president of the United States, we're going to go further left than this nation has ever seen. And so, no, there's no fiscal responsibility in any of her policies whatsoever.
Congress breaking for the August recess without passing a 2025 federal budget. Lawmakers now have until September 30th to pass the 12 spending bills to keep the government running. I feel like it's deja vu all over again, Congressman.
Yeah, Maria, there are two kinds of people in this world. There are those who are yes, that they try to get to yes. Those are the CEOs. Those are who create things. And then there are those who say no to everything, and they don't achieve anything. Sadly enough, we have some people within our caucus that pick up bills, and instead of trying to find a way to get to yes, they look for a way to get to no. And this is extremely frustrating for Speaker Johnson, and we're trying to do things. But, if it's no, no, no against everything, and with such a slim majority, we're at an impasse. We're in a very, very difficult time of being able to pass these appropriations bills. But we have a section that just wants to say no to everything, no matter what it's done. And it's really difficult for us to pass these bills.
I see. What is the pushback in terms of, is the other side not wanting to get business done? I mean, what is the pushback?
Well, we're trying to do things in a very slim majority. But, some folks feel that unless a bill is perfect, they're not going to vote for it. They can't get to a yes. And I think there are different motivations that go with it, but it's the same cast of characters that do this over and over and over again. And whether it's just trying to gain notoriety or what, it's extremely frustrating for those of us that actually want to do the work of the people.
Vice President Kamala Harris has gone 10 days without holding a press conference or a wide-ranging interview, Congressman, since becoming the presumptive Democrat nominee. Harris campaigned in Houston yesterday, but she didn't visit the southern border. And we've got a new report finding the Biden-Harris administration has supercharged migration from Latin American countries with a program that has granted refugee status to more than 20,000 people from 7 different Latin American countries in just over a year. The Center for Immigration Studies says many of these people coming to the U.S. would normally be classified as economic migrants, not refugees who are fleeing potential persecution. Your thoughts on what Kamala Harris's agenda may be? We haven't heard from her. All we know is that she's doing 360s on all of the things that she said in the past. She was the border czar. She says, no, I'm not the border czar. I was never the border czar.
Yeah.
I was never in charge of the border. She said, there's no question I'm going to ban fracking. Now she says, no, I'm not going to ban fracking. She says, there's no question I'm going to have a mandatory buyback of guns. No, she says, I'm not going to do that now. I mean, it's a complete reversal. So we really don't know what her policy or agenda would be. Do you?
Well, I think we do, Maria. It's going back to what her historical policies have been. Again, the second most liberal senator. She's saying these things right now to try to pull in those who are undecided, those who are unaffiliated. God forbid if she became president, and now with the border being more closed than it's ever been during this administration, she would open that thing wide open again. And we see the reason why. We see, that she wanted to give health benefits to all the illegal folks who came in here illegally. 90%, as you said, came in here with for economic reasons, not asylum reasons. I don't believe a thing she says.
Well, by the way, she also has been said that she's open to adding more justices to the Supreme Court and is backing Biden's plan to put new reforms in the Supreme Court, even in the same breath that they say Trump is a threat to democracy.
Right, right. Well, I think, good Lord, they don't like the results, so they change the makeup of the court. That's not what the Constitution is all about, and that's what they're pushing.
Congressman, thank you. We'll keep watching all of that. Greg Murphy joining us this morning. Good to see you, sir.